Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be across this great world of ours. Today is July 3rd, 2026, and it is day 22 of my video challenge. Today, I kind of want to just talk about, I guess, the phenomena of projection. And what I mean by projection is that phenomena of psychology where human beings tend to mostly unknowingly project their own thoughts onto others. Um, and so, to give an example of this, um, I I kind of sent an apology text to someone that I know really well about some things, and the way they responded, they were kind of like, "What are you talking about?" And we talked about it a little bit, and what I started to realize was that the reason why they really didn't understand what I was talking about was because I wasn't really apologizing to them. I was actually apologizing to myself. Um, and the things that I said to them were things that I really needed to say to myself. And then that kind of made sense, that whole exchange, right? And I've noticed that before too. Like I will um, say something to someone like, "Hey, you're really good at X, Y, or Z. You should consider doing pursuing that, right? Pursuing those things." Uh, and sometimes they do, but sometimes they're just like completely disinterested. I mean, it falls on deaf ears. And I did that one time, and what I I kind of had an immediate like, "Oh, I'm actually saying that to myself. This is some other part of me trying to speak to myself, um, and using that other person as their sort of chance to vocalize what wants to be vocalized." And I find that a really interesting phenomenon, um, because when you start to, well, first of all, it can lead to a lot of confusion. I think it's really interesting how our mind has multiple different um, aspects of it, all trying to work at the same time. And since we only have one area of focus, a lot of those times, um, those different parts of us are fighting for control of our attention, of our focus, our attention. And if they repeatedly can't get access to that resource, then they try to very sneakily get done what they need to get done. Um, well, in a very sneaky way, right? So there's a part of me that needed to apologize to me, and it wasn't able to. So what it did was it kind of queued that up uh, as an apology to someone else, hoping that I would realize that it was actually an apology to myself, um, which I did. It was successful, and that couple of times where I was telling people, "Hey, you're really good at that. You should do that," and then I realized, oh, I'm actually talking to myself. So it starts to work. So I think it's interesting that phenomenon actually exists inside of us. I believe it makes us just far more complex than we um, commonly think about ourselves as just this unilateral mind, um, and sort of what you see is what you get. It's really just all these different functions and programs running um, parallel to each other, trying to coordinate as best they can. Uh, and also, I think it's interesting because as you start to notice that pattern and you can pay attention to it, you get those messages a lot more quickly, and they are very helpful messages. This is stuff from your subconscious coming up, trying to get you to be aware of this very valuable information. Um, so yeah, I just yeah, projecting. And oftentimes, like that whole scenario, and all of those times where I've noticed this happening, all of those things that all, the thoughts that I had and the feelings I was feeling were really belonged to me, which is really interesting, um, and completely changes the whole story on, especially when, I never thought of myself as that I'd be a good salesperson. Never. And had a real negative um, mindset around sales and salespeople and things like that. But at some point, I realized, oh no, I could be a really good salesperson. I could be a really good salesperson. Um, and and that was coming when I was giving somebody this praise of saying, "Hey, you could be a really good salesperson." And he turned around and said, "What are you talking about? You would be a really great salesperson." And it was one of those moments where I realized, oh yeah, like, yes, I think I was being um, correct in my assessment of that person. But when he turned that around and was like, you would be a really great salesperson, I also realized that I was projecting. And so all the positive feelings I had towards telling him what a great salesperson he would make, suddenly I was able to own that for myself too. And I was like, yeah, actually I could be a really great salesperson. And I know that I would be a conscientious salesperson. All of those stories you have about salespeople who um, are very, that they lack scruples, which I think that is very rare, honestly. I think that is actually pretty rare. It's just so ugly that it takes a lot of the spotlight. But I believe that the vast majority of salespeople out there do have good scruples, and they always try to do right. It's kind of a sense of pride in what they do, right? Um, and unfortunately, there's a small percentage of salespeople that just don't care about anything but the money. And I think that is just so ugly that it steals the spotlight, right? And so, yeah, that's just getting back to projection. It's an interesting phenomenon. It is worth paying attention to. And there's a lot of value because it not only helps you become aware of those subconscious messages, those messages that are bubbling up from your unconscious part of you that's trying to talk to you. But it can also help you really own some things that might otherwise be difficult to own, right? Like when I was apologizing to that person and I felt really sorry, and when I realized that I was projecting, I was able to feel that for myself. Like, oh, I'm actually just really trying to be nice to myself. Um, yeah. So that's kind of all I have for today. And that's fine. Again, these videos are just supposed to be whatever they're going to be. I'm, like letting go of any and all expectations so that I can kind of organically figure out how to move forward with these to make them in a way that's fun and interesting for other people, and useful, not just fun and interesting, but useful as well. So that's it for today. Remember, you are more important than you know, and far more loved than you can imagine. And yes, that is a projection. And I knew that when I wrote it, because I need to hear that myself, right? I think everyone does. So embrace it. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow.